Hey everybody, Jason here. I hope you're all doing really good. So today I'm working on an iPhone 11 Pro Max that was sent here because it is liquid damaged. Now last week I posted a video of an 11 Pro that was also liquid damaged, and I was really surprised to find out that the front-facing flex cable had not been affected. The front-facing flex cable, it has a proximity sensor, it has an ambient light sensor, it's got some things on there that you really don't want to get wet. And these phones, they are notorious for leaking various fluids through the ear speaker hole. So let's have a look, and I want to show you exactly what this phone is doing. I've got it connected to a charger. We're drawing 400 milliamps of charging current, and right now I'm just waiting for it to power up. So I'm going to pause for just a moment. All right, so here we go. We get an Apple logo. Nothing. Apple logo. Nothing. And this will just continue on and on forever. So if we disconnect that front flex cable that is notorious for getting liquid damaged, now we're going to get Apple logo. Any moment. Come on, baby. We're still drawing 1 amp of charging current. Such goodness. We have a boot, followed by lock screen, and this phone is back up and running without doing anything but disconnecting that front flex cable. And just to get a nice charge connect tone, we do. So I'm going to go ahead and slide to power off. Like that. Now to fix this, because I would like to try to bring back or retain Face ID, I'm going to try to repair the front flex cable that's in this phone. If we just take and replace it with a new one, this thing won't have working Face ID. So to fix this, we're going to need to remove this flex cable from the front of the phone and just have a gander at it. This one is probably pretty nasty, judging by the look of the front-facing camera and also the ear speaker itself. All right, so we just take 3 screws out and begin to fold this thing back. Now, these things can be really stuck in there, so I usually use just a smidgen of hot air, and I warm this up as I slide a screwdriver under here. This is hot air set on 200 degrees. Airflow is 65, and just a little bit of warming. These things will pop out of there. This little component here, that is our front-facing microphone, or Siri mic, or whatever you want to call it. Ooh, the magnet on that speaker is sticking to my screwdriver. All right, front mic is free. This over here on the right side, this has our proximity sensor. And then this rectangular block, that is an ambient light sensor. I'm just going to grab a hold of that and pull on it. And there we go, we are free and clear. And there's what the top end of that screen assembly looks like. If we look at the ear speaker hole, you can see that, I'm actually surprised you can see light through it, but this is where the liquid comes in this case. All right, so I got this little booger out of here, and I'm just gonna right away show you what it looks like under the microscope. I can see it here with my eyes. It's actually not that pretty at all. Ooh, look at there. I'm actually pretty pleased to see this one over here on the left. This here is our ambient light sensor. That's what's going to sense, if there's any light happening. And then this one over here, this is a proximity sensor, and also it's got a light in there. Right here we've got basically a sending and a receiving side. This is to sense proximity. And then this right here this emits light. And I believe this thing is solely only there because of Face ID. There's no other reason for it. So to do any sort of work on this, we need to get the ear speaker out of the way, because I have to use hot air. And if I just go blasting this thing with hot air, we're going to wind up melting the ear speaker. So to get that out of the way, we're just going to use a soldering iron and get the tweezers under it. We'll pop one side of this loose first. like that. All right, now we're going to pop the other side of this loose. There we are. And then we've got some sort of like a noise cancellation, sensory, whatever kind of setup going in here. So there's some kind of a thing over here on this side that's getting, like, I don't know, feedback through the port on the speaker cabinet. Like, I don't even, what in the world is that thing? If you know more about this than me, feel free to let me know in the comments below. So to service this little gizmo, I'm going to be taping it down to the workbench, and I'm intentionally trying to get this Kapton tape to cover the hole on the microphone because I don't want to accidentally get any kind of fluids down inside of there. And apparently my piece of tape is not quite long enough, so we're just going to go ahead and add a little bit more to it then, shall we? There we go. So I just want to hold this down to the bench because I'm going to be trying to clean out and resolder our little proximity sensor module. And if you have any bit of curiosity at all just how big that is, I mean, just there's my pinky finger. It's a pretty small thing. It's not the smallest thing in the world that I work on, but it's pretty stinking small. So with this component, there are many times that I'm able to just like flux it and flush it and try to rinse out under it. This one actually looks pretty bad, so I'm going to take it off of there, clean under it, and put it back on. I'm just worried that we've got bad stuff happening. I mean, it looks really bad. So to get that off of there, I'm going to set my hot air on, I'm going to say 290, and I'm going to reduce the airflow. Let's go down to, let's go to 290, and I'm going to do like an airflow of maybe 30. It's hooked to a tiny little flex cable, so we don't need like a ton of airflow or anything. And let's just pop this thing off of here and have a look under it. And to try to ensure that it comes off here nice and clean, I'm going to give it just a smidgen of flux. We want to try to keep the flux out of the inside of that sensor for obvious reasons. And I'm using my smallest nozzle on the hot air station. And by reducing to 290, my hope here is to keep from singeing the plastic. Okay, so there we've got the module off of there. And also we need to remember which way it's orientated. We'll just remember that the window is facing away from me. That makes it kind of easy. So now let's flip it over and have a look under it. Yeah, so we've got just a little bit of corrosion here on this side. It's actually not too bad. It's not even really bad enough to hit it with my soldering iron. So I'm just going to have it this with a Q-tip with some alcohol on it. And I suspect we've just got some data lines here, or a data line or a clock line or something that's being put somewhere it's not supposed to be. All right, so that has the flex cable clean. Now, the coating that is on this flex cable, it is really, really, really easy to disrupt this stuff and have it start coming and flaking off of there. So I'm not going to spend much time at all here trying to shine this up and make it look pretty. What I'm trying to say is that the coating that's over the traces and stuff that's on this flex cable, it just comes off, and that's ugly to deal with. So we're going to just clean this up minimally. I might get in there with a soldering iron and just kind of touch those pads up a little bit. Let's just see. Now, the module itself is troubled because in that same spot, we've got some goo on there, and we don't want that there. So I'm going to do the same thing. Alcohol and a Q-tip. Only, you notice I'm wiping it on my pants. I don't want it soaking wet. I need just a little bit on there. I suspect it's just that little bit of dissolved solids between the pads there that is causing this thing to loop like that. And we do have some on the other side here too, by the looks of it. Oh yeah, what's that? That's ugly, isn't it? If we look right here between these two, we've got something that looks metallic. Oh yeah, there's definitely something between those. So let's get that out of the way. Should be using some better Q-tips for this, huh? All right, now I am gonna go ahead, since I know this thing's not gonna fall apart on me like the actual flex cable does, I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of flux there and just the babyest little bit of leaded solder. Just gonna tin the iron with leaded. Don't do that. I'm just gonna tin the iron with leaded and see if I can get this to scratch free. Oh yeah. Looks good. Let's add a little bit more solder to this one pad. And because this equipment is so sensitive, I'm not going to try to replace all this solder with leaded like I always do. I'm really just going to try to get this right back on there and move on with my life. So back over to the flex cable. I think for the purpose of making this slightly pretty, I should clean up those two pads. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So the same thing, I'm just going to touch this with the tiniest little bit of leaded solder. And that's actually not working out too well. All right, see if I can get this to be a little more uniform, and then we will put this back on. So here we go. All right, we're going to leave it exactly like that. That's going to be just fine. And okay, let's get this sensor put back on now. I'm going to add just a smidgen of flux. Like that. And just set this thing right back on there like that. Get the hair out of the way. All right, here we go. Yeah, there are many times whenever I want to make everything look all perfect and pretty, but this is definitely not one of them. These little things are very sensitive, and there's no sense in killing it by nitpicking. Okay, I'm going to have to reduce my airflow or I'll blow this thing away. I'm going to go down to 15. Actually surprised, this one does look pretty good. Okay, here we go. Okay, I just seen one side of it sit down. Just seen the back of it sit down. Gonna stop right there, let it cool off just a little bit, and then have a gander under it, see what it looks like. We're looking to make sure that it is sitting flat. I'm not too concerned. Okay, and it's, oh boy, it's almost flat. I'm not too concerned with being able to see stuff between the pads because that's just flux. We know that because, well, I just cleaned it all the way out. And now that I've got it sitting on there, I'm gonna raise my hot air back up to about an airflow of 30 because this thing didn't completely melt. I needed to sit down on there. All right, so here we go. Ah, we got it melted. Definitely melted all the way around. Now, against my better judgment, because I don't like leaving flux all over these things, I'm going to use a little bit of alcohol and clean that up. Now, when I do this, it's really hard to keep it from just going into the sensor. And I'm just going to try to clean up my flux a little bit around the edges. And then also this bit of sticky that's on the front of it here. Get rid of that. You know, it's very often after doing a job like this, the customer will ask you, is the phone still going to be liquid proof afterwards? I'm not even making this up. This is true stuff. Yeah, and see right there where I was wiping with my Q-tip, you can actually see just how easy that stuff comes off. And underneath that proximity sensor, it's even worse. Like it comes off of there really, really easy. All right, so there you have it. I have taken this thing off of there, cleaned under it, and then put it back on. It's not the cleanest job in the world, but I do know that the only thing left under that sensor is my no clean flux. It no longer has any like pull water under it. So we need to go ahead and put the ear speaker back on this flex cable. And that's gonna go on right like it was. We'll just add a couple of tiny little baby dots of flux, like that. All right, and also we want to be careful, of course, not to melt the ear speaker. So let's get that lined up. Tack it in one spot. It's a little crooked, but I'm going to fix that here in a second. Tack it there. There we go. And then once more here. Beautiful. It's just marvelous. It's actually a little bit grungy, but we're going to leave that alone. When it comes to soldering on top of these plastic components, it tends to be really important not to nitpick, because every little bit of effort that you try to, every time you try to make it look a little better, it winds up being a little bit worse every single time. And there you have it. We've got the ear speaker soldered back on. There and there. Am I really going to nitpick this? Oh, that's just... Let's add a little bit of flux to that. Stick our tweezers next to it. We're just going to pretend like we don't see that little spot up there where I accidentally nicked the cable. There we go. Now it's beautiful. Now we can leave it just like it is. I'm going to take just a minute here and clean up the ear speaker hole. Although as long as you can see light through the, through the screens, it's actually pretty good. These things have a way of getting just fully clogged. Not too shabby. All right, now that I've got that flex cable pretty well cleaned up and it's brand spanking new, it's time to get it put back in the housing. We're just going to line up the microphone here right back where it was before. And then these other sensors, they will slide right back down in their slots as they should. And then fold it over and slap the screws back in it. All right, here we go. 1 amp of charging current. And this phone is booting. Let's see if we boot up to a lock screen without having to have that front flex cable disabled. And then I'm going to check the ambient light sensor and the proximity sensor. I think I have a passcode so I can check the proximity sensor. Any moment. All right, so we're up to lock screen. I'm going to turn the screen off. I'm going to hold my hand over this now and turn the screen on. It should come up, yeah, really dim. And when I take my hand off, it comes up. That's how we test the ambient light sensor. I'm going to do that one more time. That's the long rectangular shaped sensor. All right, so the ambient light sensor is working as it is supposed to. Now I'm going to check the proximity sensor. All right, so we have working proximity sensor and we have working ambient light sensor. Now, being that Face ID on this thing died long before the phone died, I'm really worried that that is going to continue to be an issue because it seems like it has some way of just like self-destructing. So this thing is hung up on a problem was detected with the True Depth camera. Face ID has been disabled. If you are a repair shop that is fixing Face ID and you have suggestions as to how other people may be able to get around this, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I have actually got the sensors on this phone working, but for whatever reason, Face ID is still dead. So anyways, I'm going to let this phone charge for a bit and make sure it doesn't have any other problems. I've already discussed with the customer and let them know that this thing may not have working Face ID and they're okay with that. So yeah, that's it for now, everybody. I really thank you all for watching. If you like my videos, please click thumbs up. If you like this type of thing and you want to see more in the future, please subscribe, and I will see you really soon. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. Well, it is now the very next day, and I have discovered that this phone has a remaining issue with the dock flex. It's actually not always able to charge whenever it's powered off, and it also does not always prompt to boot whenever it's plugged in. Now, since I have had to order a part now to finish this repair, and also since this Face ID issue is like the camel that broke the straw's back, I have decided to go ahead and order the programmer that I need and the parts that I need to hopefully repair Face ID on this phone, as well as other phones that I have here. So I was going to wait until the parts arrive and add all that into the end of this video, but I'm worried that it's just going to make the video too long. If you all are interested in the Face ID stuff and you want to see what it is that I'm planning on doing and what I do to try to get Face ID working on this phone and also one other phone, let me know in the comments below. I will happily record another video and post that up as just like a standalone Face ID thing video. And I'm just going to leave this video as it is for now and get it posted up. So yeah, bye.